Welcome to the Run Out. I am Neil Barrett. He is Brandon Hooten. We are officially down to the final game of the 2025 PLL season, where the New York Atlas will play Brandon's Denver Outlaws. But before we get to that, we have a bunch of other things to get into. First and foremost, we are glad to have Brandon back. Hope you and your family are doing well, Brandon. Before we move into lacrosse, though, you got to shoot the first football game of the Air Force season, and I gotta say, my boys in blue have never looked better.
Yeah, their season opener is one of my favorite events. I'm gonna say every year. It's only my second year doing it, but like it's one of those games that I look forward to because it's family weekend, so like the stands are packed. Their colors always pop, and it was overcast, which makes colors pop even more. Anyone who's ever dealt with like any type of camera filming or photo wise knows what I'm talking about. And it was great. They won by 36 points, I think it was, which was cool too. It's always better when they win, especially because, I don't know what it's called. You might know when they have like the song after they win.
The fight song?
It's not the fight song. It's like a slower song. I'm not totally sure. I'll look it up and we can drop it for the viewers, but it's pretty cool because then afterwards they're all dancing. Yeah. But it's pretty cool because then they're all happy as well, and they're not trying to rush off the field. So, great start to college football, and I should be down there a lot more. So, a lot more Air Force content coming.
That'd be dope. I see they're playing Navy at Navy, but they are playing Army this year at Air Force. So
in November, though, so it's going to be freezing. But it'll be worth it, though, because everyone will be there. Last year, their game against Navy at home was one of my favorite events of the year. It was awesome.
Hopefully we can win those games this year and bring the Commander-in-Chief trophy home where it belongs.
Yep. We'll see. They had a rough year last year, but we'll see.
Yeah, they did have a rough year last year, but one of my favorite things is when the Army-Navy game happens, at the end of the season, is to be like, that's great, but you guys are playing for second place. So, which they were not playing for second place last year. They were playing for first, but anyway, let's I guess get into these games. We will start with the first game of semifinal day, which happened earlier today. I don't even remember what time that was. That was the noon game. The Atlas played the Water Dogs, with the Atlas winning 13-11. Plenty of things to talk about here. Well, I'll just let you dive right into it.
Yeah. Firstly, congrats to the Atlas. I did pick the Water Dogs in this game for a variety of reasons, and it had less to do with the Atlas. And even as I was doing it, I was like, I probably should take New York, but I felt like, and this is said across sports, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Mm-hmm. And so in my head, it was like, they're kind of playing a home game. They've already been beaten by them twice. Even though they gave up 20 goals last time, I felt like they also put up 19. So like, it's not like the team is getting blown out necessarily. But then like you watch this game and like, the score reflects pretty well. And I do think that the Water Dogs played decently for what it was, but like they only put up 5 1-point goals. So without those 3 2-pointers, like this game's not close. Liam Entenmann, shout out to him, almost 70% was great. Unfortunately, Matt DeLuca just had a down game. And they're a team that we've talked about all year. When you're balancing 2 goalies like they have been, it's tough to then say this guy's the answer, this guy's not, because how do you know? And especially like for the Water Dogs, like when Ben Wayer's your leading point scorer, probably not going to win very many games. So it's unfortunate for them, but also slightly encouraging, especially after last year, the way that they kind of, were awful, to come back and at least be close in this game. But again, like it was also not close in a lot of aspects.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It was 13-11 is not the way this game played out. Atlas dominated pretty much all of this game, except for, the final scoreboard, which, like you said, had a lot to do with those 2-point goals being just kind of keeping them close on the scoreboard without them and really having too much. I wanted to say, like you said, Ben Ware was their leading scorer. I go back to us a couple weeks ago talking about the LSM of the Year award and being like, how is this dude not a finalist? I thought he should be there, and I thought he played like one today. Matt DeLuca getting the start. It was only the second time that a Water Dogs goalie had started back-to-back games. Matt DeLuca started the quarterfinal last week and then the semifinal this week. And the only other time it happened was coming off of the Philly homecoming weekend, where they had split time in goal, and then they restarted again with Matt DeLuca. But otherwise, they flip-flopped all season. And, you know, he only had 8 saves and 38%, and I don't think a ton of that was on him, and I don't know that Dylan Ward necessarily plays better, but like we've talked about all season, that defense just tends to play better in front of him. So,
yep. But like their defense also gave up a ton of middle of the field looks, I felt like.
Yes.
And granted, a lot of it was on the power play, so like that does make a little bit of sense. But like it just got to a certain point where it was like you're giving it up every time, and I mean it's to the point where like they have defensive players with a long pole doing shovel shots in the middle of the field. Michael Grace took one. I was like, so at some point you guys aren't looking at this going, hey, we probably should shut this off, because I mean Reed Bowering did it, Michael Grace did it. I think Jeff Teat did it. Xander Dixon. It's just every single person on the team at one point got a shot off there. And I'm like, you guys got to stop. Like, if they're going to beat you from outside, fine, you live with it, especially on the power play. But like, the defense just wasn't there, like, at all. And it was awesome to see Ben Ware in transition score goals. But it's like, you guys got to stop the guys first. Like, you can't only rely on the random 2-pointers. And granted, they were timely 2-pointers. I'll give them credit. But like, I mean, they did this in Utah too, where it was like no defense, and then but you hit a 2-pointer, so it covers it up for a little bit, and then you come back and don't stop them again.
Yeah, no, I tweeted out earlier that it's so interesting that all this discussion that we've had about Jake Taylor and CJ Kurse and who you should play and where you should play him and all that, and then the Water Dogs kind of ultimately deciding not to play Jake Taylor, giving them kind of no real inside presence to speak of anyway, was really interesting to see that compared to the Atlas, who were getting so much from their inside presence with specifically Xander Dixon and Reed Bowering. But like you said, Jeff Teat got some looks, Michael Grace got some looks. Like it was just a really interesting, I'm not even necessarily linking those two together, just because they did it doesn't mean that the Water Dogs could have done it or should have done it or whatever. It just was interesting to see like the difference in thought processes on how it could work. And I do think that it's interesting that I thought the best this Water Dogs offense looked all year was with Jake Taylor in there, because they felt so balanced in their attack, and they were getting such better production out of their midfield. And ironically, I think played a lot more like this Atlas team does right now back then. But again, that's not to say that they necessarily would have won this game or anything. Again, they didn't seem to get a whole lot of production out of really anyone not named Ben Ware. Gavin Adler kept Michael Sowers out of the game. He had a season low touches by a wide margin. I believe his previous low was 24 touches in a game. He only had 16 in this game, and only had 2 goals on 2 shots, which, I mean, is great. You're shooting 100%, but it's not a good look for your MVP candidate to only be getting 16 touches. Like that's pretty rough. There's a lot of guys that got more than 16 touches today that you don't want Connor Kelly having nearly double the amount of touches that Michael Sowers did. So, this is kind of what I expected. I mean, I don't want to be up here and like, oh, I'm right, beat my chest, because I've said it plenty of times. We're mostly kind of scientific wild ass guessing over here. Like you might have an idea, but at the end of the day, it's mostly kind of a guess. Hopefully it's a somewhat educated guess. That's like the best that you can really go off of. So I don't say this to like beat my chest, but it is kind of the way that I expected this to go because, like I said last week and a couple weeks ago when they came out of Boston, you're not going to get a below 40% Liam Entenmann again. That game in Boston was your best chance to beat the Atlas, and you didn't do it. And I did not expect them to do this. So in that sense, it's kind of what I think most of us expected. I know you picked the Water Dogs. I saw that. But there might have been a little bit of peer pressure there too.
Funny enough, actually, I didn't talk to them at all about my picks. We didn't talk all week about it. This morning I was like, so who are we taking? Like, I want to know. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's interesting that you guys are taking them too. Cause like I said, when we started this segment, like I said to myself when I was doing it, like the Atlas are probably going to win. But like, I'm someone who tries to always like not go the easy route and like be like, well, yeah, this makes sense because there was a part of me that was like, they could surprise us, but when your midfield comes out for the second straight week and does nothing, I think they had one goal between their whole midfield. And then you look at Atlas's midfield and you got Matt Traynor with 3 goals just by himself, Reed Bowering with 2 more goals, Jake Stevens had a goal. And like, you just go down the list and you're like, these are 2 completely different play styles, clearly.
Yeah.
And as much fun as they were to watch last week when they had, 14 goals between their attack line, that doesn't win you very many games. Like, no. Honestly, I'm surprised they even won last week, playing that way. So then to come in against, a top 2 team in the league and to get that same result, like there were times when I thought Connor Kelly was just kind of throwing stuff at the cage and hoping it was going in.
Yeah.
And that's not to pick on him. Like there was a lot of guys who did that, but it was just, there was several in a row where I was like, are you even aiming? Like, it just seems like you're just kind of just like, oh, it's on cage. Or, especially early in that game when it took so long for them to get a settled 6-on-6 possession. Like, there were times where they'd come down and it's an immediate shot. And I'm like, okay, like, maybe let's slow down. You have an MVP candidate on your team. You have Kieran McCardle, these other guys who can touch the ball. And instead, we're having middies just chuck the ball at the cage. And Liam Entenmann saves it cleanly off the other way we're going. And that, to me, was kind of their downfall. Was just like they rushed when they didn't need to. When they did need that sense of urgency, then they started slowing it down for no apparent reason. And then, like I said, you rely on Ben Ware to be your scorer. Jimmy Freehill to be your scorer. It's awesome when they score, but like
that can't be your.
That's not winning you
scorer.
games.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and that's been the story of them all year long.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. I wrote down in my notes right here that early in the game, Philly was getting one-shot possessions every time they'd come down the field. They'd launch a shot in the first 10 seconds, and it would be a clean save. They'd lose the run out. Somebody would end up with the ground ball, and that one shot was it, and then it'd be back up on the other end. And like you said, their first settled 6-on-6 possession was halfway through the first. Like there was 6 or 7 minutes had already elapsed before they had their first settled 6-on-6 possession. And it just kind of felt like it set the tone for the whole rest of that game. They were already down. I mean, it was 6-0 before they did anything. And that was a Ben Ware goal. 2-point.
And I mean, they were losing a ton of faceoffs as well. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just that they were getting only one-shot possessions, but then it was like when the Atlas go down and score, now you're not even winning the faceoff. So they're playing make it, take it. Hey, you finally get a stop, and then you're getting a one-shot down here. Like, you can have one or the other. You can't have both. And they had both for, like you said, half of the first quarter at a minimum. And even throughout like the game, there was too much of that just the entire time. That was like, you got to pick a struggle here. You can't have both. And they apparently picked both today.
They picked both, yeah. Maybe you can't pick both. We can pick both.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me. I'm wondering with the Water Dogs officially now starting their off season, what are you seeing as the areas they need to kind of prioritize, not necessarily in the draft, but just in the off season? What are the moves they need to be looking at?
Well, I'll start with internal first. They have a lot of questions with who's on their team currently. And we've talked about that kind of extensively, so I won't go deep in depth. But you got Zed probably coming back from injury. I know I said I think he's going to be traded, but as it currently stands, he's coming back. You got the CJ Curse, Jake Taylor dilemma. Defensively, I think they're solid. I think they don't really need to fill too many holes there, if at all. I think they just need more camaraderie, honestly. I think Dylan Hess was great in year 1. Hopefully he makes another jump in year 2. Guys like Marcus Hudgens, Ben Ware, Jimmy Freehill, like that's all good. The biggest question for me, honestly, is just, does Alex Stathakis improve? Because he's good, but he has games like today where he loses 13 of 23 faceoffs. And then goalie-wise, to me, it's pretty clear that DeLuca is going to be taking over the starting role. So even if you have Dylan Ware on the roster, that's fine. He can be a backup. But does DeLuca then take that next step? Because I know he's had several 60% games, but then he's also had several very subpar games. And a big part of that is defensively, they've had some lapses. As good as they are on paper, they've had mental lapses, and you can see it. Even today we saw it. So does that shore up, and then does he improve when that shores up as well? And that kind of relationship has to improve. I don't know that they're ready to scrap one of their goalies, because I do think you have to give DeLuca the full-time role for an entire year. I don't think it's fair what they did this year with him and saying, hey, you can play some games, but not all the games. And, here's the playoffs. Now you have to be at the top of your game. That's not okay. Either give him the reins or don't, but pick one. And then, depending on what happens next year, to me, that's when we're going to start looking at, okay, maybe you need a new faceoff guy. Maybe you need a new goalie. If you haven't solved the attack problem either, / midi problem, do you switch up that midi room? Because, they got to score. They need to score. And as good as they are all individually, for whatever reason, collectively as a unit right now, they're struggling a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how they address. Chemistry is probably the best word for it. But just, they got so many guys right now. Not the attack, the offense feels so unbalanced to me right now. And in some respects, I think that maybe that's a little bit overstated. Balance is just generally, and its importance. But it is a little crazy to see some of these guys that were putting up points early in the season. Totally blanking on his name. Jack Hanna was basically getting you a guaranteed 3 points a game, and now he's lucky to get 1. Same
0
thing
today.
Same thing with Connor Kelly, and they had Thomas McConvey looking like an all-star earlier this year, and I don't think he's had a game. I don't think he's had a point in
the last couple of weeks. He had 1 point in each of those before today.
Yeah, he didn't have a single point in the playoffs, and he's only got 3 points since CJ got in the lineup. So,
and you look at those first 2 weeks for him too, 3 points, 4 points, and then you see this drop off of 1-0, 2-2, 1-0, 1-1. So I'm not totally sure what happened with him. I don't know if they went away from him or if he just quit attacking or what, but
yeah,
it's bad.
I just think they probably need a little bit more help through the midfield. And then sort of like what you were saying, the defense feels in a really similar position. I don't look at any of the guys that they have and I'm like, oh, he's a weak link. He needs to be replaced. Like Ben Randall, Kenny Brower, Jimmy Freehill, like you said, I thought Dylan Hess was pretty good. Christian Scarpello, Matt Witcher, good. That's a solid short stick defensive midfield unit. Ben Ware, Marcus Hutchins at LSM. You feel like I would feel pretty good about those guys. There's just something about them that, like you said, that they have these moments where they just you're like, what is happening? And I don't know how much of that is Matt DeLuca or what, but we got to figure something out here in this defense, because this roster, again, on paper at least, should be playing for championships at least, if not like winning them. So yeah, I feel like I would look at maybe some midfield help, but I don't know what exact moves to do. I guess they're gonna go, what are they gonna draft? 6th, I think. Because they should be above. Oh no, California will be above them, won't they? They'll be 5th.
Yeah, I thought Joe Keegs tweeted out a list. Let me see here. Because I could have sworn California was picking 6th, but maybe I am not correct on that.
I get a little.
I'm not seeing it now.
Confused when people go. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused on when teams go out in the same round, who goes what. I thought it was based on where they finished in the regular season at that point.
It must be. I mean, that makes the most sense.
Which I think would put the Water Dogs drafting before, overall. Yeah, because the Water Dogs were 6th in the standings. So I think they
must be going 5th
before the Woods. Yeah. And then the Woods would be 6th. And then whoever loses the championship game will be 7th, and whoever wins it will be 8th. So yeah. So yeah, I'd have to sit down and really look at who I think will be available at 5 and whatnot. But there should be, my understanding off the top of my head, again, I got to look at this again, but I think there's a lot of guys that can kind of fill that role for them. So hopefully they get there. But let's move on to the second game of the day, the game that just finished about an hour ago, where your Denver Outlaws took on the California Redwoods, with the Outlaws coming away with a 12-7 victory. This game, as much as I said the first game went the way that we expected, I think this game really went the way that we expected. I thought the best chance that they were going to have was keeping the Outlaws out of rhythm. The longer they could do that, not let them find their rhythm, the better chance they were going to have at winning. But that if the Outlaws got their feet under them anytime during the first quarter, it was going to be game over. And that's kind of how it played out. They were Outlaws were a little slow getting out of the blocks in this game. But when Pat Cavanaugh. Did Pat Cavanaugh? Yes, Pat Cavanaugh.
We have Pat Cavanaugh.
Yes. I got worried that I had thought it was a Cavanaugh and wrote Chris Cavanaugh, and then it wasn't. When Pat Cavanaugh hit that buzzer beater at the end of the first, that seemed to be like, oh, okay, that was that spark of like, oh, okay, we're good. We're settled. We're good. And from there, it was pretty much all Outlaws. They scored the final, 10? Yeah, 10 points. 10 of the final 13 points is what I'm trying to say, to run away with this game. And the Redwoods only scored 1 goal in the entire second half. They went more than 20 minutes without scoring a goal. And honestly, I thought the goal they scored and the way the game kind of finished had a lot to do with the Outlaws taking their foot off the gas and just trying to kind of coast. They started passing the ball around the outside and just trying to work out as much of the clock. When Chris Cavanaugh hit that goal with 5:26 left in the game, you thought maybe they could get something going. But that Dalton Young run out to get them that extra possession, and then the Justin Anderson goal on the doorstep sealed the game for Denver. You were with the Rough Riders at the watch party. What did you see? What did you think about this game?
A lot of separate thoughts. Firstly, stop scheduling a bye week the last week of the regular season, please. find a way to stop making teams like the Atlas have to wait 3 weeks to play. It's ridiculous. We've talked about that extensively. I won't beat the dead horse here. Secondly, I felt like it was very overstated about how rusty this team was going to be. If rusty is 3 goals per quarter, give me rusty every single week, please. Okay? Because this team, I love the announcers, but they made them look silly talking about it for the entire first half, about how rusty this team was going to be. They're the most consistent team in the league for a reason. Okay? They scored 3 in every single quarter. The first quarter was a little bit off for them, but that's happened to them in numerous games before they had a month off. So let's stop talking about that for everyone out there. It's ridiculous. Secondly, you're not stopping Brennan O'Neill ever. If he wants to score, he's going to score. If he wants it,
yeah.
Which I have said since week 1. He's going to score. All right, Luke Weirman stepping up big time against TD Erlin. I don't know how he did it, but to go over 50% against who I think we both agreed is the faceoff athlete of the year, incredible. Especially when, Chase Erlin had an amazing game, I thought. Just shy of 60%. 16 saves for a guy in his first, I'll say big playoff action. I know he played last week, but this is his first real test. And I thought he was incredible, especially when you have McNaney on the other side going 64, almost 65%. I wonder who should be goalie of the year, by the way. Anyway, yeah, just consistent across the board. Only 12 turnovers. It was interesting to kind of see how the Outlaws offense played out. You only had 38 touches from Pat Cav. And I know earlier in the year when he was getting 50 touches, we were kind of like, I wonder how that's going to, move throughout the season. And now you had 4 guys with 20 plus touches. Brennan only had 40. But they were just efficient. And that's all you wanted to see, especially because everyone was hyping up the time off. So I thought it was good. I will give credit to the Redwoods, especially early on. I was like, they're playing well and they're doing the right things. And unfortunately, they just ran into the best team in the league, top 2 team in the league, however you want to slice it. And I especially thought, shout out to Tim Sudan. I don't give him a ton of credit on here, but at halftime, right before halftime, Dylan Malloy was killing the team because he was literally running guys over. And funny enough, I think it was Bryce Queener responded to me on Twitter when I was like, the Outlaws need a big body on defense because no one was stopping him. And he was like, you ever heard of a guy named Mike Manley or something like that? And I was like, that has to be a halftime adjustment, right? And sure enough, you start seeing some things happening after halftime where it's not only JT on Dylan Malloy. And all of a sudden, he's not getting anything he wants, which I thought was a huge adjustment because I do dog on him sometimes for, hey, let's change something up if things aren't going well. And he did it. So shout out to him as well.
Yeah, at halftime, I wrote Dylan Malloy with a first half hat trick and Chase Erlin at 64%. Can they repeat that in the second half? And obviously it's a kind of because Chase finished at 59, which is obviously a slight fade back from what he was at half. But a lot of those I didn't feel like were really on him. Justin Anderson's on the doorstep. He's not saving that. I think Pat Cavanaugh had one on the doorstep. He's not saving that. Someone was on the crease and he actually did get his stick to it. He just not enough to stop it.
Yep.
And so I don't think it was necessarily on him. I thought, like you said, he still played really well. But yeah, the big one was Dylan Malloy only having 1 assist in the second half, and that being kind of the difference for that offense. It's crazy to me that Chris Cavanaugh only had 2 points on a goal and an assist in this game. That's as far as rookie of the year candidates go, I mean, you could argue he was no, maybe that's a little harsh. I was going to say you could argue maybe he was one of the worst. I did want to say, going back to the Atlas game a little bit, I think it's incredible that Matt Trainer was not a rookie of the year finalist, but could very realistically be the last rookie standing this season because he was great in that game. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the rookie of the year, like just give them all a finalist. Like just give all 8 of them a finalist. They all deserve it. They've all been great. But back to this game, Chris Cavanaugh had the same amount of points as Chris Fake. which
Yeah.
is mind-boggling to me.
That's what happens when you go up against the true rookie of the year.
But Brennan O'Neill, I think we have to talk about him. Like you said, when he wants to get to his spot, you're not going to. I think the best that you can hope for is one, that he's uninterested, and two, if he's interested, that he's off target, because there's not a whole lot you can do if he's interested and he is on target. There's not a whole lot that you can do. He continues to be just astoundingly good when he wants to be, when he's got time. And I thought this game was really telling, because Chris Fakis, who handled him in the NCAA championship, well, in the NCAA period, whenever they matched up, Chris Fake was supposed to be the guy that was consistently taking Brennan O'Neill out of games, and he didn't do it. It's going to be really interesting to see what Gavin Adler does, because Gavin Adler is someone that Brennan O'Neill has like very specifically struggled with. And to be fair to Brennan O'Neill, everyone has struggled with Gavin Adler. We just talked about Gavin Adler marking MVP candidate Michael Sowers out of a game. So, everyone struggles with Gavin Adler with the way that he's been playing, but it's going to be interesting to see what Brennan O'Neill does in 2 weeks' time. Anything else on this before?
No, that basically covers it. All I'm going to say is the step back two that Brennan had.
Oh my goodness!
The confidence level you have to even attempt that.
That was crazy.
When he took that shot, I was like, "That is wild."
We talked a couple weeks ago about Brennan O'Neill, and that we were comparing the two the goals that he had, and the level of difficulty of that one-handed underarm shot from last season. And this was another one where I feel like it looked impressive. I think most people can somewhat see it, but until you've like played it and seen it and like tried it, it's like, it's one of those ones that does not look quite as difficult as it really truly is. To generate that kind of power fading away from the goal like that was absolutely insane. I feel like every week he does something that we're just like, what in that?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the championship game, September 14th. That leaves us with, obviously, the New York Atlas taking on the Denver Outlaws. One cool story. I know. I'm not even going to ask you who you want to win. We all know who you want to win. You're literally wearing the hat right now. By the way, that's a great hat. I love that hat.
Shout out to Rough Riders.
I was going to say, is that Rough Riders? Because I know it's not a PLL one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. But the one storyline that lots of people were talking about at the end of the Atlas game today was that Trevor Baptiste is the final OG Atlas player left playing for the Atlas, and he will play in his first PLL championship game, and the Atlas's, obviously, because he's never played for anyone else. So this isn't really a question for you, but I think I'm leaning towards cheering for the Outlaws in this game. However, I'm not going to begrudge Trevor Baptiste his championship if they end up winning this game. Again, I don't expect you to necessarily agree with that.
No, I actually do agree with that. Because, right. And this is the downside of going from like no home teams to having home teams, is you still have a lot of guys that like I want to see win. So like, yes, it would be awesome to see my hometown team win, but I'm not going to be like sitting there crying if they lose, because like like I would love to see Trevor get one. Like, I love Teeter. I would love Teeter to get one. I still love like watching Liam Entenmann play is still so fun. Like I would love to see him win. Like there's so many guys on their team that like I'm gonna be happy for. Guys like Reed Bowering, who in my opinion was probably on the edge of the roster for several years now, and he's come in and played super well. So, like, I'm not going to be super upset if the Outlaws lose. I would love to see him win. But, like, again, Trevor's a Denver guy, too. So,
it's true.
You know, I don't want him to retire and not get one.
Yeah.
Not that he's close. I'm not saying that. But I'd like to see him win 1, 2, however many. Like, it'd be fun.
Yeah. I think Trevor's starting to reach that, like, Kyle Harrison level of, like, just kind of beloved by lacrosse fans. Like,
yeah.
What about Trevor can you really, hey, I do not like Denver. Trevor has never played for a team that I cheered for, but I would never begrudge him that title. I don't know. It would just be, it would be fun to see him get one. I would enjoy seeing him get one. So yeah, I think I'm going to cheer for the Outlaws, but you know, it might be somewhat half-hearted. And plus, the Denver Outlaws, the way they're constructed right now, I mean, that the core of that team is going to be dangerous for a long, long time. Whereas, not that I think the Atlas team, you know, is on a short window, but a comparatively shorter window. You know, like you said, I don't think Trevor's leaving anytime soon. But he's leaving sooner than Brennan O'Neill is, so you know.
Yeah.
I think they have plenty of time, even if they lose this weekend. How do you think that these two teams match up?
I think they're actually pretty similar. I look at their game in Denver a couple weeks ago, and like, it wouldn't shock me if we had the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I look at their offenses, and I'm like, okay, both of them can score pretty much whenever they want. They have stars all across that. They both have exceptional goalies. Depending on what version of Luke Weirman you get, that could be a really good battle where it's closer to 50% than it might initially look. And then defensively, like, I think both teams have guys that can shut down offensive players. I mean, we just watched Gavin Adler do that today to Michael Sowers. MVP candidate gets taken out of the game, essentially.
Yep.
And then I think on Denver side, like, JT is always in that mix for best player in the league. Defensively. Let me not rile anybody up. But, you know, and a couple others that I'm just like, you know, if they're all firing on all cylinders, it really could be a barn burner that comes down to an overtime game winner, or, you know, a fourth quarter game win or something like that. But I think all in all, like, this is going to be a good game regardless, you know, which is what I'm hoping for. And again, it's just nice to have a new champion as well. Like, shout out to the Archers, but, you know, if you're not an Archers fan, it does get kind of repetitive where it's like, okay, like, here they are again. So it's cool to see both these, and it's also, people might disagree with me, but it's kind of cool seeing the top two teams make it, because I think for so long it's been like, well, we're picking them every single week no matter who they play. But then when they don't make it to the championship, it's like all that work was for nothing. But so to see them both kind of come to fruition where, hey, you're the best team in each conference, you proved it, and now you're here. Like, that's pretty cool to see as well. And I think it might be the first time as well.
I legitimately don't know. But
I'm almost certain it is.
It certainly, even if it's happened once or twice, it certainly has not been a consistent thing at all. You know, it's almost always some team that gets kind of hot right at the right time and makes a run. You know, the Whips, you know, the Archers were pretty much favorite. I don't know if they were number one, but they were at the favorite all season last season. But the Whips weren't. The Whips made a late run. The season before that, I think it was the Archers that kind of made a late run. I don't think they were number one. So yeah, it's almost every year there's a team that jumps up. And like you said, I don't necessarily want one versus one every single year, but when it happens naturally like this, like, I'm all for that. I like there to be some mix-ups, you know, here and there, but I'm totally down with this. And like you said, you know, both of these teams have outstanding goalie play. I think they have big star attack men, you know, with Connor Schellenberger and Jeff Teat and Pat Cavanaugh and Brennan O'Neill. They both get a lot of help from their midfield. I think the one place where you might say that Atlas has maybe an advantage would be with Trevor Baptiste, but like you said, the last time they played, Luke Weirman actually beat Trevor Baptiste overall, not by much, but a little bit. Trevor was at 50%, and Luke Weirman was just over 50%, so not by much, but just a slight advantage there. But also, we've talked about it on here. Faceoffs is like the least important position, if that makes any sense, if I can state it that way. So yeah, I think both of these teams line up really well against each other. They both have really strong short stick defensive midfield units. They both have very good long stick midfielders. I think they're very, very comparable from top to bottom, and I don't know how to differentiate. Like, I don't know who to pick to win, because it's going to end up being just some guy that we're not expecting is going to step up in this game. It's going to be a Matt Trainer, I don't know about Justin Anderson, but somebody, Wiz or Bundy, Dalton Young, someone's going to step up and have 3 goals, and their team is going to win by 2 or something. It's I don't think it's going to be the guys that we think it's going to be that win this game. Brennan O'Neill may have a game kind of like he had today, and it still is going to be important for a guy like a Graham Bundy or Dalton Young or whoever to step up and win this game. So it's really hard to pick, and I don't know how to do it. With
flip a coin.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's going to be. It's going to be tense, and like you said, I just hope it's a good game. That's all I really care about. Something tense and fun to watch is going to be good enough for me as a relative neutral. You might prefer it to be a 21-5 blowout for the Atlas, just so that your nerves survive the game. Or I mean, for the Outlaws. I said Atlas. I mean Outlaws. But that's it for that, I guess. Let's move over to the mailbag. We asked for some questions from listeners. Got a handful to talk about. The first one comes from J Rodriguez 621, who asked, "Who is in your all-time lineup?" For me, he asked for Duke. For you, he asked for Denver. I'll go first. I think I'm I have a little bit more to go on, I think.
Yep.
I tried to do a starting 10. I don't know that I've really accomplished it, but let's talk about it. So for attack, I had Matt Danowski, Brennan O'Neill, Justin Gutterding. For midfield, I had Miles Jones, Ned Crotty, and then I didn't come up with a third one because there's a whole bunch of guys that I think could fill that third slot, and I'll mention them in just a minute. Short stick defensive midfielder, I had Will Haas. I don't think he gets talked about enough at all for how good he was, and I almost said is. He's retired now. How good he was for Duke and winning those 2 national championships. I don't think we get there without him. And then he was a great pro that didn't get talked about enough because we focused so much on Ty Warner and Danny Logan and Ryan Tarafinko, and Will Haas was just that dude the whole time, just floating under the radar. Flying. Anyway, at LSM, I honestly put CJ Casabiel first, and then I was reading something and thought about Tyler Carpenter, and I don't know who to pick. I'll probably ride with CJ Casabiel just because he scored like the most famous LSM goal of all time to win the national championship for Duke in 2010. But I don't think Tyler Carpenter's a wrong answer. On defense, I had Casey Carroll. I don't think there is more of a Duke guy than Casey Carroll. and what he accomplished on the field. JT Giles Harris and then Nick O'Hara are the other two. And then for face-off, I had Brennan Fowler. They literally changed the rules because of him. Like, how do you not go with him? I don't have a goalie. I think there are 4 names that could be picked. Danny Fowler, Dan Loftus, Aaron Fenton, and Mike Adler. Aaron Fenton's probably the leader for me, but I could be talked into anything. And then here's a list of guys that I think any other Duke fan could have in theirs, and I wouldn't complain. Zach Greer, Max Quinzani, Josh Dion, Dyson Williams, and Jordan Wolf for attack. Brad Smith, Deemer Class, Dave Lawson, Jake Trapuka, Justin Turry, Andrew McAdory for midfielders, and Mike Manley, Cade Van Raphorst, Henry Lobb, Luke Dupree, and Kenny Brower on defense. Yeah, that's my list. That was a lot to throw at you. I think those are all time
just named
guys.
Like the entire professional league.
I think those are the all-time guys. If you're asking me my favorites, I'd probably go Gutty, Dion, and Zach Greer. Those are like my top 3 Duke players. So,
I'm a Zach Greer guy. I like watching him a lot.
Loved Zach Greer. Yeah. For some reason, I always wanted to play in probably the way Gutty did. Like if I could have picked the way that I played based off of a Duke player, it would probably have been the way Justin Gutterding played. But Zach Greer and Josh Dion, 2 primarily finishers, I just loved watching those 2 play, and every time they touched the ball, I felt like they scored. So yeah, love Zach Greer though. He was like my first official favorite Duke player was Zach Greer. So
that's good.
Who you got for Denver?
My list is going to be way worse than that because I think I've talked about this on the show. I've only watched field for like a short period of time, generally speaking. And the college game at best, I'm not always paying attention to like names. I watch more of it now and take more notes now, but like it's going to be way less in depth. I'm just going to throw out some names that I think could be on a roster.
I should clarify.
Go ahead and clarify before I
should clarify that I only did from 2003 on, because if I didn't see you, I can't really comment on you. Like, I know Kevin Cassis was a great midfielder. I know that there are other guys in Duke's history that were great players, but if I didn't see you play, I can't really comment. I think that's fair to establish for you at Denver. Sure, there are and should be other guys probably on your list and on my list, but it's our lists, and we can only really comment on guys we saw. So with that being said, go ahead, hit your Denver list.
Yes. This is gonna be so bad, but I'm gonna throw it back to before I even fully was watching. A guy like Mark Matthews.
Gotta be,
because he's still one of my favorites to watch in the box game, and some of his highlights, the toe drag highlight is always one of my favorites to see. So he's got to be up there. I'm putting a guy like Eric Law up there as well for obvious reasons. Man, there's like Wes Berg. I'm a big Wes Berg guy. I don't really know why, but he's always been one of my favorites.
I was very. But,
I mean, you could look at even a guy like. Well, hey, to each their own.
I think he's great. Like that's like pure hate for how well he did against my teams. I was just like, oh, this mother.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why he's on my list.
Yeah, 100%. I
would say another like favorite that may not be like on most people's all-time list, but a favorite like Tyler Pace. I have a soft spot for him. Another box guy. Then you have obvious guys like Trevor Baptiste is obviously starting at the face-off stripe.
For sure.
Danny Logan. I think one that might surprise people, that's a recent guy, Jimmy Freehill. he was just outstanding.
He was good today.
I'm trying to think yeah, he was great today. Like, he's just fun to watch. Man, I'm trying to think who else. I don't have a goalie. I know that. I knew that for sure. I feel like I'm missing somebody that I thought of earlier, but I can't think. That's gonna kill me now.
Well, I know you love.
I don't know.
I know you love Mick Kelly.
I do love Mick Kelly, but that's like a personal favorite. I don't know that he's cracking like an all-time roster. But for the lack of having players, I'll throw Mick up there.
Why not?
Because he was very fun to watch last year and the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. And like the other thing too is like I don't want to throw up guys that like are still actively kind of playing or just finished playing necessarily. Like, but a guy like Cody Malowski, I think by the time he's done will be a very good player for Denver. And then obviously at the pro rank as well. But
same with
yeah,
I think
don't know.
Manning.
I'm sorry to whoever asked the question. I wish I had more knowledge.
Manning might be the guy in goal for this all-time team when it's all said and done.
Oh, you're talking about Noah's brother, Grayson Manning.
Yeah, Grayson Manning. Yeah.
I will say when he came in this year, he did have a pretty good year for being like the guy, and then he obviously played very well for Team Canada this past week. So he may be up there. And he also plays box goalie as well, which is kind of rare. You don't really see too many guys doing that. So yeah, again, sorry for my lack of knowledge. Don't chastise me, but throw out some names and I will gladly put together a more complete top to bottom list.
We didn't get to talk about it because you weren't on last week, but I saw a list of all the kids at Denver that were in that U20 World Championship game, and I almost tweeted out something a little snarky about when are we going to start saying, how did Denver not win a national championship with this team, or do we only do that for certain teams and players? But hey, they still got a couple years with which they could maybe get one.
Yeah, they got some time. I'm not sure if that's gonna happen, but they technically do have some time.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. This was from.
Oh, and actually, hold on. I just thought of one as well. That's a personal for me because I went to high school with them. But Malik Sparrow at Denver playing LSM. He was signed on to the Redwoods for a short time training camp. Mm-hmm. He was incredible in high school. He was incredible at the college level. I think 2022, 19 caused turnovers.
Yeah.
Which would have been his junior season. So just a quick shout out to him too, because I was kind of surprised he hasn't been invited back to a training camp in the PLL, just as like a kind of we'll see, but yeah, he's up there as well on my all-time team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good shout. I completely forgot about Malik Sparrow, but he was very good for Denver, for sure. Let's move on to the next question from Coach Shan O. He's a guy I used to coach lacrosse with. Is it time for another expansion team? I'll let you answer this.
All right.
I'm pretty sure we have the same answer.
You know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
From a strictly lacrosse standpoint, absolutely. It's probably overdue from that standpoint. From a league survival standpoint, it's not. And now, mind you, again, I've said this numerous times, I have not seen the numbers. The league does not put out their revenue and that type of thing, so I cannot speak to like if they literally have the funds or not. I know the OTB boys have put out the idea of expanding to 21-man rosters first. Mm-hmm. That adds another 16 players. Can you handle that? If you can, then maybe you look at expansion. I'd rather have 8 teams than no teams, so that's why I'm saying no. But lacrosse-wise, absolutely. I think you could go in the player pool right now, take a couple guys off the existing teams, and probably create a pretty good team. But again, it's got to make sense financially, and I'd rather have a league than no league. So
yeah. Well, and I mean, you can look at at both the Chaos and the Redwoods from this season and see that the talent's there, because Dylan Malloy was a oft not used guy who has been an all-star this year. Jackson Eicher was a guy who went undrafted and has taken off this year. So there are plenty of guys, like you said, sitting out there that are on the fringes of teams or sitting in the player pool that could build out a roster. And I think that there are plenty of guys who are maybe on the fringes of a team that in a league where there were 10 or 12 teams could be like an all-star caliber player. They just don't get the looks because the guys in front of them are better.
Yeah.
It just is one of those things. So, like you said, talent-wise, lacrosse-wise, absolutely. Money-wise, keeping a league afloat, keeping a league growing for the next 10, 15 years, absolutely not. Not a chance. I have heard several people bring up the 21-man roster thing. I'm a little torn on that. I'm all for it, just as an idea. I think the PLL's kind of big goal, next big goal, is to make everyone have their salaries be at a level where it is at least more feasible to be a full-time lacrosse player who lives in market. Not that necessarily everyone will do it or that everyone will make that money, but I think that's their next goal. And I don't know that you can do that and increase the rosters to 21 at the same time. However, I have also heard some people say that maybe the answer is to increase the number of games that are played, and that's how you can get more money for players in their contracts and stuff. Both of those, I think, are way more likely than adding an expansion team, though. Though again, like you said, talent-wise, lacrosse-wise, yes, we have been there. 2019 we had, what was it, 16, 17 field lacrosse teams out there between the MLL and PLL. So the talent is there. We just gotta figure out everything else first.
Yep.
Next question. This is going to be a little bit of a debate, I think. Maybe not the question itself, but maybe the second half. This comes from Casey Lee D. Hopefully I said that right. Didn't butcher your name, Casey. Casey asked, is Jeff Teat the greatest lacrosse player of the 2010s? I think Jeff Teat's best seasons by far are the 2023 NLL season where he had 136 points and finished one behind MVP Dane Smith, and the 2024 PLL season where he had 64 points and obliterated the previous point record total by 20 and ran away with the MVP award, neither of which happened in the 2010s. So I'm going to amend the question that Casey asked, because I think this is what he was actually asking. Is Jeff Teat the greatest lacrosse player since 2010? I don't know that it changes the answer. That being said, I'll let you go, I guess, because I have a little bit of a spiel.
I'm not gonna fault anyone that argues that, because I think when you look at guys like him, like, he dominates in the outdoor game, in the box game. He probably would be really good in sixes as well. But I also think you got to look at, like, there's some other guys that I think also are really good. I think Lyle is up there. I think someone like Dane Smith, I know a lot of field people haven't seen him play in a while, but I think he could probably be up there. I think there are a couple goalies that could probably be up there as well. Of the 2020s, sure, let's make that argument all day. But I just think there are some other guys that you could probably debate. But again, if anyone says that he is, I'm not going to argue against that necessarily, because I think he he is one of the best that we've seen. I think he's probably one of, if not the best right now in the world. So I can kind of see both sides. I don't necessarily have a position though that I'm gonna stand on, I guess.
I don't think well, I mean, I guess I do this kind of what I do. Here's what I think. If you say since 2020, in the 5 years since 2020, I think maybe there's a pretty good argument for him. If you're saying since 2010, I don't think there's an argument for him. I have him as an upper echelon, like top guy, but in terms of like best in the world, I'm like, there's no chance. He broke no Cornell records at all in 4 years at Cornell. He broke no Cornell records. And even if we take into consideration the fact that his senior season was the COVID year and he only played 5 games, he would have needed to more than double his highest season goal record to break the season and career goal records at Cornell. So he wasn't breaking goal records. He would have needed a career best season by at least 10 assists in order to break RP3's career gold record and Tim Goldstein's single season assist record. And despite having played a third of his senior season, he still needed nearly 100 points in his final 10 games to break RP3's career points record. And even though he was averaging 5.4 points through 5 games in 2020, he would have that if he had kept that pace the whole season, he'd have still been more than 20 points behind Mike French's single season point record. So pretty safe to say, even if he had played a full season, he probably does not break any Cornell records. He has no pro lacrosse championships, at least as of the recording of this. In 2 weeks, he may have one. And he only has the single PLL MVP award. He didn't win. He didn't win a Tewaaraton. He's never won the NLL MVP. Although again, 2 seasons ago, he was very, very close. For my money, I have 6 names. Really, I think there's 2 that I'd have as like the top. Then I have another 3 names that I think are right there in the conversation. And then I have a 6th name that I don't want to say and I don't want to admit, but I think there's a decent argument, even though he's probably 6th place. So the first 2, like you said, Lyle Thompson, I don't care about anything. We're talking about one of the best players to ever play the game, ever. Period. End of story. And when you can combine that with the fact that his whole career has been post 2010, like I don't know how you would not include him in this conversation. The second one, very close to your heart, Dylan Ward. Dylan Ward has won it all. He has done it all. PLL championships, MLL championships, NLL championships, world championships, junior championships. As people keep wanting to bring up, the only thing he don't got is a high school championship. And you
want to talk about that, Neil?
Look, we can talk about it, but
I'm kidding. He was one of the goalies that I was mentioning when I said goalies.
When you said goalies, I thought you were gonna say Dylan Ward.
They don't generally get the same type of love as other guys in these conversations, but I do think there is room for him specifically.
Yeah, specifically for sure. I think we could have the conversation about Blaze. We could have the conversation about maybe some of the NLL goalies. Matt Vince. Okay. About Matt Vince, probably deserves to be in this conversation, at least as far as goalies are concerned. But yeah, those are the 2 guys that I'd have as like surefire. These dudes are the 2 best players since 2010. The next 3, I think, are right there with them, but I can see how maybe you would make an argument one way or another about them not being on the list. And that's Trevor Baptiste, Tom Schreiber, and Dane Smith. All 3 of those dudes do it in the box, do it on the field, do it for national teams. They do it across the board. I don't know like I said, I think there's maybe a small argument here or there. Trevor and Tom don't really have the box success, even though they are good box players. They maybe aren't as successful as Dylan Ward and Lyle Thompson have been in box. And Dane Smith is the opposite. I don't think he necessarily has the. He does have a PLL championship, so we can give him that. But in terms of like individual accolades, maybe there's an argument that he doesn't have the field MVPs or whatever. Though
he has more field success in like the World Games.
Yes,
I think 100%, than he does in like the PLL, MLL type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, those three guys I think can all be included. And then the last one I don't want to mention, but in terms of doing it all, Matt Rambo is up there. I don't look at that face.
I didn't say anything. I'm listening to you make your arguments.
No, I think
just of who I thought you were gonna say. Like he's not the guy that I thought. That's where we were going with this. That's why I'm not against it. It was funny because that's not where I thought we were going.
It's because high school state championships, national championships with Maryland, a Tewaaraton, not a Heisman, a Tewaaraton award, a PLL MVP, PLL championships. He's had a decent box career, not amazing, but
he was able to do it.
Yeah, right. Of the guys that we have listed, he's definitely if this was a top 6 ranking, he is clearly 6th. But just one I thought I would throw out in terms of the greatest player since 2010. I think he has a right to be involved in the discussion, though again I don't think he's anywhere near the top of that. I think he has an argument over Jeff Teat because of the things that he has actually accomplished on the field. That being said, Jeff Teat still got plenty of time to have this conversation be completely different in a decade.
Yeah. And I will say, I didn't even consider like college or high school.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned that, like it makes sense. I don't know if the question was geared towards all encompassing or just pro, but that's also a good thought of if we're counting 2010s to now, that's 15 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not really counting Rambo's high school championship. Going back to the Dylan Ward conversation, the point was never about the value of a high school championship, which is slim to nothing, especially when we're talking about world championships and NLL and PLL and all those things. It means almost nothing. And to that point, there's a ton of great players that never won a high school championship.
Yeah.
That whole conversation was never about the value of a high school championship being comparable to anything. And this conversation is not, I'm not adding him in because of high school championship. It's one of the things he accomplished. Like that's all I'm trying to say is that, right. He's just one of those like serial winner guys. Like he's just kind of won everywhere he's gone. And because of the things that he's accomplished, it's hard to not mention him, even though again, I think he's way down on this list. And Lyle is probably the flip side of that argument, where he hasn't necessarily won a whole lot. He has the one MLL championship in 2019.
He does have an NLL championship as well.
Yes. But I was thinking field wise, it's the Tewaaraton, the 2019 MLL championship and MLL MVP, both of which are hard to count too much in his credit because the PLL was also playing at that point. And then he has the NLL MVP and NLL championship. But he's one of those guys that I just think you don't count those things against him because of who he's played. Albany was never winning an NCAA championship. The Haudenosaunee are unlikely to win a world championship with the US and Canada being what they are. Maybe that'll change. He's still got some time, but I don't think we're going to hold that against him that he didn't win a world championship because of who he plays for. Similarly, the PLL champion in the MLL, he played for the Launch, who were awful, and the Bayhawks, who were mediocre, and then the Cannons, who were awful. So, like, you know, I don't know. There's a fine line to walk there, I guess, in that conversation. Yeah. But
I do think one day, though, give Jeff Teat another 10 years. I think he'll be right where Lyle kind of is. I'm not saying to overtake Lyle, but I don't know that he's necessarily going to have the winning success per se.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to be a guy that like you're watching and you're like, okay, that's the best player. Like he's,
yeah,
you know, I'm like you're saying, Lyle doesn't have the team success per se, but like you watch him play and you're like, wow, that dude's he's one of them once essentially.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's my list since 2010. But again, I think when all is said and done, Jeff Teat's probably in this conversation. And if the Atlas could win the PLL championship in 2 weeks, and I don't know that Ottawa wins a championship ever, but if he ever ends up on a different team, maybe he wins one or two somewhere else. Who knows?
Come on down to the Loud House, T. If you're listening, feel free, dog. I know the flight's a little long for you, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe he'll live in city, maybe.
Hey, the Outlaws are always looking for talent.
You know, what if he became an Outlaws and Mammoth? You know, you never know. We're living in the
him and Brennan playing in city year round.
You know, we're living in the 21st century.
I should say the last time I said this to Connor Fields, he half-heartedly laughed at me.
I was like, "Get out of here."
A couple of years ago when he was here for PLL, I jokingly was like, well, hey, when that contract's up, because he was talking about how beautiful it was, and I was like, when your contract's done in the NLL, come on down. And he just kind of laughed, and he was polite about it. But then when I saw he inked that next deal, I was like, oh, I thought I had him. I really thought I had him.
I thought I had him. I thought I did enough.
Some random kid. I thought I got him. But
I thought I got him.
So anyway, Jeff T, if you want to change that and do right instead of what Connor Fields did, feel free. Come on down.
I love that you're just like the secret sauce for all Denver teams. Like you're going to be the one that like seals the deal for these teams.
Whatever I can do, it helps me as a photographer to see good play. So please come help me out.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This is actually one that I asked. I know that's not in the spirit of a mailbag, but we didn't get a whole lot of requests from you people. So one that I asked earlier this week and was thinking a lot about, who is the most unique player in the league? Not necessarily the best or most skilled or highest scoring or any of that, but the player that does things that no one else does, that is unique in what they do.
You already answered this today. Stop.
You know why I answered it already?
Because you watched him play and you're like, wow, this dude is insane.
No.
Best on the field.
No, because he was not on my list. And when I was writing out the show while watching the games today, I was like, why is Brennan O'Neill not... Like, nobody mentioned him. And that blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? Why has nobody mentioned Brennan O'Neill? And of course, he had like the most unicorn game ever. A couple of names that were tossed out that I thought were interesting. Asher Nolting. The only thing I thought about Asher Nolting is that I think Dylan Malloy does play very similarly. I think Brennan O'Neill, got Brennan O'Neill on the brain. I think Dylan Malloy and Asher play similarly. Asher, I think, is a little more pass first, and Dylan Malloy is a little more shoot first. And, depending on how you look at it, I might say Asher is slightly better at that, but that can be up for debate. Another one that was mentioned that I thought was a really good answer, but for a unique reason, was Blaze Reardon. His ability to play in goal on field and play as a forward in box Nobody's doing that. You talked
Sure.
about there aren't goalies that are playing. There aren't very many goalies. There are a couple, but there aren't very many goalies that play both. Uh, there are even less that play one and then the other, like Blaze Reardon. Then I got one that I thought was a little controversial, but I was kind of like, under the way that I phrased the question, I think it could be true.
I hope
And
it's the
that's
guy that I want to say.
this is, the one I'm talking about is Romar Dennis.
No, not
Okay.
not the same.
When I first heard it, I was like, what? Romar Dennis? What are you talking about? But then I was like, I asked for unique, and I don't know that there are any guys in the league that play the way Romar does. I'm not even sure how to fully quantify what it is that Romar does that nobody else does. Um,
He shoots a crap ton of twos.
but that doesn't even feel descriptive enough because Connor Kelly shoots a crap ton of twos, like lots of guys shoot twos, but there's just
Okay,
something about
Romar shoots jump shot twos.
well,
I
when you
mean,
say it like that. Oh, jeez. All right. Who's the one you got?
funny enough, you got the first letter correct and the team correct. Ryder Garnsey.
It's Ryder. Okay. He was the next one I was going to talk about. That's why I wondered if that's
Strictly because when you watch him play, he has one hand on his stick. Everything a coach ever teaches you about handling a stick, he violates repeatedly. And he gets away with it most times.
Here's my one pushback on Ryder. I don't think it's incorrect. I like the answer. My one pushback on Ryder is he doing what no one else is doing, or is he doing what other people are doing just at another level?
Well, who else is handling their stick with one hand, picking up ground balls and then cradling it, backing a guy down, scoring 0 goals the same way?
I think that there are some people that play one-handed. He does it better than anyone else. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just wondering how unique it is.
Who else plays one handed consistently? We're not talking about astronauting like a little flip pass on the crease. We're talking about consistently.
I mean, I would say that Asher plays a lot one-handed. Another one, and this is a little bit cheating because they're not in the PLL right now, but another one is Lyle. Lyle plays one-handed a lot. I'd say that
Sure.
there are less of them right now, but at points in time in the PLL, when there were a lot more Canadian, especially box players, NLL players, I think there were lots of guys that played more of a one-handed game like that.
But I would argue that makes Ryder that much more unique because he's not Canadian and he's doing it by choice. And he's one of, to your point, 2 right now that you could say legitimately is doing it fairly consistently.
Listen,
Is that fair to say?
yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just had a little pushback on it in my brain.
That's fair. That's fair.
I thought of one more while I was watching the games today, and it's probably more of my argument with Ryder Garnsey in that there are some guys who do this, but he's maybe the best version of it, and that's Andrew McAdory. Obviously, I think the most immediate comparison people make is Zach Courier. But
are you referencing playing both ways?
Well, I think that's the most immediate comparison in terms of playing both ways. I think I think Andrew McAdory does it in a completely different way, and which is part of why I was like, he could be on this list of kind of unicorn players because I think he does it in a different way. But I'm also not too mad at anyone that's like, yeah, I mean Zach Courier does it. In a lot of ways, I think Ryan Terafinko does it, although probably opposite. I think Andrew McAdory leans a little bit more offensive and Terry leans a little more defensive. So, like I said, I think there's an argument, but I'm not too mad at anyone that's like, yeah, that's basically the same argument you just made against Ryder Garnsey, and I'm fine with that.
And actually, I was just thinking about it. The way that Dylan Ward plays the high arc, it is kind of unique.
Good one.
I can't think of anyone else that is out there consistently, and he does it in both box and field. It's not like it's one or the other.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like I can't think of anyone.
Sometimes people will use a high arc in a specific situation, but he's the only guy I can think of that does it. Like that's just his natural playing style.
Yeah.
To that point, going back to Blaze, we already discussed him in playing box and or goalie and forward. I think the other thing, just in terms of goalie, nobody uses his butterfly style, so he's unique even amongst the goalies in that manner. That's a good point.
I do think it is kind of a cop out with the goalies in general, just because they all play a different style.
Yeah,
like they're kind of each individual. But I think those two specifically are too good. Where it's like, wow, you're like, this is very different. Yeah. Like I can think of, like Liam Entenmann's like wide stance. I'm like, okay, he's probably the only one that's going that wide right now.
Right.
But that's interesting. Now I'm going to be fixated on goalies the rest of my life, just looking at tendencies and the way that they play.
All right, and the last one, it wasn't even a submission. It was literally a tweet I saw right before we started recording. And I just wanted your thoughts on it. Joe Keegan tweeted out that he thinks that the 2-point line should be ruled
I saw this.
Like a QB making a forward pass, where as long as any part of the QB, or in the case of the 2-point line, any part of the shooter is behind the line of scrimmage in football or the 2-point line, in this case, it should be legal and count as a 2-pointer. I just wonder.
But what counts as being behind the line? Because when you shoot, the ball technically is probably releasing at like a midpoint. So does your stick then have to be released behind the line? Can you have a foot on the line, off the line? How, like, where does that line get drawn?
Yeah, the way I'm reading it is that any part of the body behind the line, I'm going to assume he means like a planted part of the body.
So could I have a foot planted on either side of the line and it still counts?
I think that's generally what he's talking.
No.
Yeah, so part of my pushback on this was, one, the line of, you have found the only place that I can think of in any sport. Basketball, obviously, that's a jump shot. It's slightly different or whatever, but basketball, you have to be completely behind the line. When we do fastest shot competitions, you have to be fully behind the line when you shoot. When you play cornhole, you have to be like, there's a line that you have to be behind. In handball, when you take a shot, you have to be behind a line. You have found like the one application of a line in terms of shooting the ball that says that it's okay to be, as long as one part of it is behind, then you're fine. And two, the other thing I thought was, I feel like that puts you at such a disadvantage if you're a smaller shooter. Because think about like Jared Newman with this huge 120 mile an hour wind up on that big giant like 6'6" frame versus like Connor Kelly, who's like 5'10", who runs at like 30 miles an hour and has a short stick. Like, just think of how much closer to the goal Jared Newman can get when like stretching out and dragging a leg than half of our midfielders could. And I was just like, if you have that hard line, everybody's shooting from the closest you can get is whatever it is, 15 yards or whatever. Whereas if you start allowing people to stretch across that line, it's like, oh, well, I can hit it from 13 yards. I can hit it from, 14 yards or whatever. So I didn't like that rule, but I just wondered what you thought.
Like, what are we gonna do next? Do the same thing for the crease? Oh, you can be kind of in the crease as long as one part of your body's not. That's stupid.
Yeah,
Lines are in the game for a reason. Like that's if we're gonna do that, why not just make a 2 point zone?
mm-hmm.
Hey, here's 3 yards, 13 to 15 yards. If you shoot it here or behind, there you go. It's your 2 point. Like that's no. We have a line for a reason. It's also a skill as well to make sure you're behind the line. Like
Yeah.
I remember when I played basketball, the first ever 3-pointer I thought I made when I was in, I don't know, 5th grade or whatever I was. My foot was on the line. My big toe was on the line, and they called it back. And, like, that was a massive thing, because it was like, oh, okay, I need to make sure now I'm cognizant of my spatial awareness, where I am on the court.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in lacrosse. Think about the shot today with Brennan O'Neill. He has to step back, not only get 1 foot behind, but he has to make sure that both are behind and still hit the shot. Like, that's a skill. Whereas, like, if you're just allowing guys to just kind of, like, haphazardly be like, oh, I'm kind of, whatever, here you go. And that's a 2. Like, that's, no. And also, that's going to slow the game down so much because now it's subjective. Well, where was his body, though? Was it just enough behind? Was it, like, and now we have to go to review every, 5 minutes, and, like, it's just not, not worth it.
I had the exact same thought. It's way harder to ref now. Way harder to ref if you do that.
And now you have a bunch of fans who are going to be upset every game and be like, well, we lost because they didn't give us a 2. And, and that's the last thing you want as a league is to have subjective calls that legitimately give reason for fans to be like, is this scripted? Like, you want it to be definitive. This is our line. He wasn't behind it or he was. That's the call.
Yeah. I think it's easy for everyone to understand, hey, his foot was on the line. It's a 1-point goal. I think this mostly came from the Chris Kavanaugh shot where he was lined up for a 2, but like you said, did not structure his run up well enough and ended up inside of the line, and it was a 1-point goal. And I feel like you should be punished for that. Like that should be part of the thing is you got to know where that 2-point line is and how to set yourself up to shoot behind it. I saw JP, John Paul, the guy who was the original Atlas coach, who was the Michigan coach when they were a club team and transitioned to a Division I team. And he made a tweet off of that Chris Kavanaugh shot about how much guys struggle with their footwork around the 2-point line because they never practice on fields with it. They don't understand where they are on the field because they don't even if you go and practice on a regular lacrosse field, they don't have PLL 2-point lines painted on them because that's not a thing anywhere other than on PLL fields. So I thought that was a really interesting thought, kind of piggybacking on what you were saying about just, you have to know where that line is and you have to learn and how to do it. And like you said, Brennan O'Neill has clearly kind of at least figured it out somewhat. I definitely think, like you said, that step back 2 that he hit this today was a conscious thing of like, oh, I need to get behind this line and take this shot. So it's
just like in basketball, you always hear coaches say, don't take the long 2, take 1 step back and take the 3.
Yeah.
If you're going to take a long shot, take the one that's worth more. And like, I understand the point of like, well, they're not practicing it. A lot of these guys have played professionally for many years. You should kind of be able to tell, hey, here's where it is. And also, we're talking about a league that has tested out different 2-point lengths, and they've decided, hey, this works best. At some point, the player has to take initiative and say, okay, this is where it needs to be. This is where I have to be. Sure, I would love to see some of these goals that guys are, 1 step inside the line be a 2. But that's when the player needs to be aware that, oh, hey, I can't take the shot unless I know for a fact it's going to be a 1. Like, that's... You're a professional now.
And to be somewhat fair to JP, I don't think he was arguing that we shouldn't have 2s or it was bad. He was just, like, explaining that guys don't understand the footwork because they don't get to practice it. And hopefully that's something that as this league, like, transitions into, like, a home thing, that maybe we can see get better because guys will practice, hopefully at facilities that have, PLL lines on them and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know, just something I saw literally as we were coming on the air and thought I'd ask you about, because I thought it was, even though I was very much in disagreement, I thought it was an interesting thought and just wondered what everyone else thought. But before we get out of here, one little show note: next week's episode will not be a live episode. Not that any of these are really live episodes, but will not be dealing with current events, I guess. Instead, we're going to have an interview with TJ Struther. TJ is currently a videographer with the Houston Texans, but also, did I say Houston? I feel like I butchered that.
I thought you sounded fine, but maybe not. I don't know.
Somebody leave me a note in there. I'm pretty sure I said Houston Texans. But he also works with the PLL, the Lacrosse Network, USA Lacrosse, and XTX. TJ and I go way back, and with the start of the NFL season next weekend, we thought it would be fun to talk to him about his journey from lacrosse to the NFL. So with a week off, Brandon, what do you have going on over the next 2 weeks before the championship? You gonna shoot something cool this weekend?
Not confirmed yet, but possibly. There's one school in my area, won't say which. It's giving us a hard time. We'll see if I get out there at all this year. I was there a lot last year. I don't know what changed, but so we'll see about that. There is another one though that I would probably get into. I got in last year. So hopefully there'll be some college football content this weekend. If not, anyone in Colorado that wants like high school photos of their football games, let me know. Otherwise, I'm taking the weekend off, which sucks, but gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. I got nothing. My mom was here this whole last week, so I'm trying to convince my wife for us to just have a weekend off.
Do nothing.
Do nothing. Do some cleaning, but otherwise do nothing. We also really like wrestling, and we have missed like 3 weeks of wrestling, so got a little bit to make up for. But what?
You got a lot to get through.
Oh, I don't think there's some of it. I think it's just not gonna get seen. But we'll try and watch some of it. There was a big, they call them PLEs. They used to be pay-per-views. I still want to call them pay-per-views. There was a big one last night, and we'll probably go back and try and watch that. But
it's all right. Just ask Dre. Dre will know.
Oh, I know. Me and Dre talk about it. But yeah,
text him, say, give me a summary of the last 3 weeks. There you go.
You know, it's funny. It's actually one of those things that we can watch through like wrestling reactors. That's how I used to kind of keep track of things for a while. And one of the things that I tried to do was do some react videos for lacrosse. In fact, I was gonna stream the games today, but then it didn't work out, and I was having some issues. So I was like, whatever. We'll just watch the game and take notes. So anyway, we will get out of here with that. We would love to hear from you guys. At any point, the mailbag didn't get a whole lot of traction this time. It usually does. I don't know why it didn't get hardly anything this time, but it's always a much more fun show when you guys are involved. As always, you can find me at I am Neil Barrett on Instagram and Twitter. Brandon is at Hoot Sports Media on Instagram and Twitter, and the show is at Runout Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, a like, a comment, whatever it is that your preferred platform allows. It really does help out the show. And we will see you guys sort of next week with TJ Struther, and Brandon and I will be back the following week to talk about all things PLL Championship. But until then, as always, we will catch you guys in the comments section.